Just ready to kick things off. Let's head back down for more magic here from Grand Prix Madrid. Hello and welcome to this next round of Grand Prix Madrid. We will be jumping across to our feature match area so we get a chance to see a little bit more magic going on here, and we're going to be kicking things off with Matteo More on the left of our screen. He's up against Svanning Björnerud, and we have our red deck, but you know what? I believe that this is standard. We're seeing some shocks here. There are better options available in Modern. There are better options available in Legacy. Turns out, though, you can be happily mono-red in this standard format too, up against Björnerud, who appears to be on one of the blue-black control decks that have just become omnipresent in this standard metagame after some slight adjustments that have happened to what people can play with.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed so far in our standard metagame, because I thought it would be more diverse, but we've seen a lot of blue-black, a lot of blue-black mid-range, a lot of blue-black control, and I think this might be even the first time we see a mono-red deck, which is still considered to be one of the best decks.
A couple of Essence Scatters already being played here by Svanning Björnerud, one of Riley's favourite cards in this format right now, dealing with just about every creature you shake a stick at. Fanatical Firebrand, though, Ibn was able to sneak past that counter magic. It's got stuck in for a cheeky point and potentially threatening a few more as Hazaret comes down, and it looks like there's no removal for that one, and this is a big old swing from the red deck in the hands of Matteo More here, able to get in with the God plus the Goblin Pirate, who's just helping out on the side there.
A bit surprised that Svenung used both his Essence Scatters when he didn't have the answer for Hazaret. We know that is one of the easiest ways to lose against Mono-Red is by not having an answer to Hazaret. Of course, on Crop Crusher, yeah, if you don't have removal for that one, you kind of have to counter it as well. Pianalar is 2 creatures in 1, also something you don't want your opponent to resolve. So I guess he didn't have a choice. Let's say it that way. Well, he probably had a choice, but he thought it was still better not to let resolve these 3 drops.
So, relatively straightforward plan here from Matteo More. He's looking at his opponent's life total and saying 20 does not feel like the appropriate number. Let's see if we can make it a little bit lower. Looks like we might need to adjust our score keys a little bit, because I'm pretty sure that there's been some damage already on Svanning Björnerud here. But one way or another, early doors, this game going pretty well for the red deck.
Yeah, despite him not having the best draws. I mean, shock in his first turn, 2 turns, and now an attack. I'm a bit surprised that he also attacked with the... Oh, there we have it. That was a quick game. Shock 4, Lightning Strike 7, Hazaret +6 is 13. Yeah, that was actually game right there. Pretty quick game despite not having the best of draws.
Well, as it turns out, that not even the quickest game in our feature match area in this round 4. Tommaso Badiali winning his game 1 against Mats Ellingson, and you know what? I think that he actually is on the red lockdown deck, which we might get a chance to see a little bit of later on in the round. In the meantime, though, Fabrizio Campanino, he's on Green Tron, and he's up against Andreas Gantz, who is playing, no big surprises from Gantz, Death's Shadow.
Yeah, in this game we see an early Death Shadow already at 8 life, Andreas Gantz, and maybe even more important, Fabrizio does not have the Tron just yet. I see a mine, I see a power plant and a forest, so he's still missing the tower, and I don't see it in his hand either. So next turn might be problematic for Fabrizio. This Death Shadow deck, it can kill quite quickly.
Now, one thing I'm a little bit intrigued about, maybe you can shed some light on this, is the fact that Andreas Gantz has ended up with 2 copies of Watery Grave in play, and it looks like they were both fetched up with fetch lands. Could this be a version of Death Shadow that is running a little bit lighter on the number of colors it plays?
Nah, but the Grixis Death Shadow deck doesn't run that many red cards, actually. Mainly Colligan's Command, 1 or 2, but there's usually not even Lightning Bolt or something. And you really do want double blue for all of your cantrips and double black for Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek.
So not necessarily a signal that it's fewer colors, simply that the blue is so important, the black is so important that Andreas Gantz feels like he can kind of wait on that a little bit.
What it does signal is that he's probably not running the green version, because the green version, it probably would have fetched at least an Overgrown Tomb or something like that.
Well, it looks like we saw a dismember there from Andreas Gantz, paying the life, basically setting himself up, targeting his own Death Shadow, not killing it, but meaning that he has taken enough damage now that he's able to get a little bit more in with that Death Shadow before the likes of Oblivion Zone become an issue.
Yeah, and the way that worked, his Death Shadow was actually only a 5/5 when he played the Dismember, when he wanted to play the Dismember, but by paying 4 life, it grew to a 9/9, so the -5/-5 would not kill it.
Yeah, a few weird little interactions like that occurring around Death Shadow. Kind of a fiddly little card in terms of keeping the numbers straight on occasion. But Gantz here, against a deck like Tron, not too many different cards that he needs to worry about in terms of damage coming through and punishing him for going really low on life. Pretty much the only one being Walking Ballista. And with Teemo Battle Rage in his deck, maybe we're going to see a very quick kill here.
Yeah, that of course, Teemo Battle Rage, another red card in the deck. Actually, I do not find any main deck other red card. That's his only red card. He's not running Colligan's Command, which I'm a bit surprised. Usually you see at least one of that in the Grixis Death Shadow decks.
The fact that that Blood Crypt has come into play tapped, suggesting that we're not going to see Teemo Battle Rage this turn. But Fabrizio Campanino taking a relatively sizable hit here, going down to 10 life. And now comes the big question. Can he do anything to put together his Tron this turn?
Starts off with a Chromatic Star.
Not necessarily a great sign. If Fabrizio Campanino was able to just simply slam into play the Urza's Tower that he needs to complete that Urzatron, I'm sure that he would have been very quick to do so.
If he draws it now, he still has 5 mana to go with the Oblivion Stone, but nope. Is he dead next turn? Yeah, it's a 10-10. That's how quick it goes.
Andreas Gantz finally getting some points on the board for his team. Matteo Mori and Tommaso Badiali both picking up their game ones on the other side of the table.
And that is how good that Shadow is. I mean, he played a 1-drop on turn 2, and with 2 attacks he killed his opponent without anything else. The only thing he had to do is take some damage which from his Shocklands, from his Dismember, which he knew he could because he's up against Tron, and there's nothing except for out of the ordinary Walking Ballista. Well, it's not out of the ordinary. It's still played quite a lot, but he didn't have Tron, so he would have needed to draw the Tron and have the Walking Ballista. So that's just how powerful that Shadow is.
And these players going to their sideboards. You saw just a hand peeking from the top of the screen there of Matteo Mori, I believe. And now ultimately that's because all these players currently shuffling and sideboarding. And while it's quite difficult to jump into a teammate's game and give too much advice partway through if you've not seen the entire game going, during sideboarding, it's definitely fair game to give a little bit of advice or at least a second opinion as to perhaps how some of those sideboards should go.
Yeah, and if I were Andreas Gantz's teammate, I would whisper, side in, ceremonious rejection. The 1 mana counter to pretty much everything the Tron deck is trying to do. Counters Karn, counters all of the artifacts, counters even a Chromatic Star or an Expedition map that's finding the last piece. Just a very strong card against Tron. And one of the main reasons why this card is in the Cyber is this matchup.
Now, I would guess that for this matchup at least, that both these players have a fair amount of experience as to how it goes. Green Tron and Death Shadow, 2 of the big players in this modern format right now. Operating on a relatively different axis, the 2 of them. Obviously, Tron trying to get big old threats with a lot of mana going on, whereas Death Shadow able to stay relatively low to the ground.
Yeah, and the fact that we have so many different decks, not only different decks, but also different strategies, is why Modern is great, but it might also be why Modern, some people don't like it, because there's so many different strategies that it's pretty much impossible to metagame.
Yeah, it's almost a sign that something's gone a little bit funny. If you are able to metagame, it means that one deck has been able to be very, very potent indeed. We're going to get a chance to see another deck or 2 in action. Tommaso Badiali, he's on the red sort of lockdown deck, and on the other side of things we have Matt Ellingson, and it looks like we may see a lands deck here. Not too many decks that run Mox Diamond. That one lets you discard a land when you put it into play, but then it is a straightforward artifact that is able to tap for mana of any color.
But the lands deck usually don't run Dryad Arbor, so I think he's on 4-color loam, or might even be 3-color loam. Just the normal Dark Confident, Knight of the Reliquary, Life from the Loam, Punishing Fire, Liana of the Veil deck, which has been around for quite some time.
Goblin Rabblemaster there dealt with thanks to Abrupt Decay. That the version of Rabblemaster being played by Badiali there, the Buy a Box promo version, follows things up with Megas the Moon, and Megas the Moon looking pretty potent here. I think that might be one of the signs of how things closed out in Game 1. The fact that Mox Diamond in play this time round, though, a very big deal, because it does mean that there would always have been a source of other coloured mana available for Mats Ellingson, even with the troublesome wizard in play. An unimpressive looking wasteland on this board, but here comes a Green Sun Zenith, and a 3 mana I think that we may be about to see, well, maybe a Knight of the Reliquary in play, just to set things up. Plenty of lands going into the graveyard relatively frequently there. You can see the card art of Swords to Plowshares that we use there. That from 25th Anniversary Edition coming up very shortly. Very happy to see Swords to Plowshares, another opportunity for people to get hold of there. But here is another problematic lock piece from the red prison deck in the form of Chalice of the Void on 1. That will mean that there are various spells that just simply get countered as soon as they get cast for both these players. Not necessarily as potent in this matchup as it can be in some, but definitely a little bit of a pain in the neck.
Yeah, but now the biggest problem for Tommaso is the Knight of the Reliquary, already a 6/6 attacking for 7 a turn, so 3-turn clock here for Mats Ellingson. And there's not that many cards in the red deck that actually handle such a big Knight of the Reliquary. There is Ensnaring Bridge, of course, which could really help, but apart from that, I see one Singleton Hazaret, which can jump, well, which can block all he wants. But apart from that, nothing I can see for Thomas. His plan basically against Knight of the Reliquary is to make sure it never comes into play, but that's not working out at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting that in terms of the way that you lock down different things being cast, this is the red deck is one that can do lots of cool things involving the likes of, I don't know, Trinisphere and so on, but against 3 mana threats, they still cost 3 mana.
Very surprised that he scoops there. He still had two turns, right? He could still draw Ensnaring Bridge, no? Or maybe the life totals were not, maybe he was down a little bit more, because I did see some attacks from the Dryad Arbor, which would have been weird if he was at 21. Otherwise, I don't think he would have scooped, because Ensnaring Bridge just stops the whole plan from Mats. If you have like 1 or 2 cards, the Knight of the Reliquary is never going to attack anymore. And I also think it's funny, he's now grabbing his sideboard and he's looking at Leyline of the Void. This might have been a game 1 where his opponent just didn't play anything because he got locked out and he didn't know what to sideboard, and now he finally knows.
Yeah, if there was a turn 1 Trinisphere or a turn 1 Blood Moon, say, I could easily imagine that Tommaso Badiali may have just not seen what Mats Ellingson was up to and now has the opportunity to sideboard properly. But we're going to get a chance to see a little bit more of the matchup between Matteo More and Svernig Bjornerud. Already a Rekindling Phoenix in play, ruling the skies, while the Scarab God has something to say about that on the ground there.
And this is a situation which will come up a lot in Standard. Scarab God facing against Hazaret is like one of the most common board states you will see. Usually it's the Scarab God that comes on top, unless the blue-black player is already low on life. This time on 9 life, an attack from Phoenix would be 5. Yeah, it's gonna be a close game. This is not decided just yet.
Yeah, the lifelink on that Gifted Aetherborn, in addition to Death Touch, potentially kind of a big deal here, as Svernig Bjornerud desperately sort of digs around to try and find the life that he needs to be able to use that Scarab God on successive turns to be able to get creatures back from the graveyard. Already a few nice ones to get back. Karizev with Menace gets a lot more scary as a 4/4 than as a 1/3.
Now the Phoenix comes in. Does Svenning has something? No, he does have to take 4, so he's now down to 5.
And there's the burn spell.
Yeah, 5, 3 from Lightning Strike and 2 from Hazaret. So it seems like this time around it was Hazaret which wins the fight against the Scarab God.
And I think that Matteo Mori there quite smartly, he's built his deck understanding that there's likely to be a lot of blue-black in the metagame. He's maybe running a little bit more in the way of direct damage than maybe some of the other lists have got going on. And yeah, I like how that went. Obviously, it means that our standard match is now complete. We still have both Modern and Legacy to show you. Tommaso Badiali and Matt Ellingson, they're currently shuffling and sideboarding for their game too. But looks like we're going to get a chance to jump back and see some more of that match. I know that you were saying that you were hoping to see some of this red deck in action, and we've got that chance right now.
Yeah, I actually didn't know when I said that we were going to watch it, so it's even better. How does this deck work? It's got 8 lands that produce 2 mana. It's got 4 Ancient Tomb and 4 City of Traders. These lands are pretty much the backbone of the deck. With these 2 lands, and combined with a Chromox or a Simian Spirit Guide, it can play a 3-drop on turn 1. Which 3-drop do you want to play on turn 1 in Legacy? It's either Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon. If you can shut your opponent from any other colored sources but red, you're probably doing fine. A lot of Legacy decks, they run like 1 forest, 1 swamp, or they don't run a lot of basic lands. What else do you want to play on turn 1 with 3 mana? Trinisphere. You've got enough mana, you will be able to play your spells, but your opponent is still on 0 lands, or maybe 1 if he started. So then Trinisphere on turn 1.
Yeah, if you're playing Delver of Secrets, then everything's costing 3. You're not doing anything for such a long time, and land counts are comparatively low in Legacy sometimes.
Yeah, another card on 3, Goblin Rebel Master, can get out of hand very quickly. That's just a great card. And then, of course, maybe you don't have the Chromox, maybe you don't have the Simian Spirit Guide, but you might just have the Chalice of the Void on turn 1.
Well, we've seen it. It's a turn 1 Blood Moon. Original from the dark. 2 Simian Spirit Guides mean that Verdant Catacombs is only tapping for red mana this game unless Matt Ellingson can get something going. And this is how you lock someone out. You've got 2 different Blood Moon effects now between Magus of the Moon and that Blood Moon. And that means that Matt Ellingson, he may just never get to cast a spell this game, as he just has to sit there hoping to find some basic land somewhere to produce a useful color of mana for him, because he's not playing red spells. This is not a deck that is going to be getting a whole lot going.
He is running Punishing Fire, so he could get rid of the Magus of the Moon, but then there's still the Blood Moon. He really needs to draw one of his 4 Mox Diamonds. That's his way out, but the door is going to close very quickly. There we have Chandra making an appearance.
Yeah, Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Planeswalker's a really big addition to this deck. There was a time that it was kind of referred to as Dragon Stompy, where the best thing that it could do was get a dragon into play and hope that was going to be good enough. But Planeswalkers really play into the plan of the deck very, very well indeed. If you're making it so that your game takes longer, your opponent's not being able to do much on their turns, play Void on 0.
Yeah, Tommaso recognized that Mox Diamond is the only way out for Matt, so he reveals Chalice of the Void with Chandra, does opt to play it and plays it for 0. Very smart play by Tommaso. As we see there, Mox Diamond, 0 mana artifact, which would be able to produce any color, any mana of any color.
Yeah, this is a rough old spot for Matt Ellingson here. Gradually getting more and more loyalty on that Chandra. And you can see, yeah, you know what? We are not going to be worrying about casting any Leyline of the Void anytime soon.
That was one of the easiest decisions he had.
Looks like we're just double checking something that we might have a little judge issue going on in this game.
Is it possible to play the Chalice for 0? Is that the problem? I guess it should be. No,
looks like everything's all okay. We are able to carry things on here. And Matt Ellingson, that was basically the only way that he was going to find this game lasting too terribly much longer. Fiery Confluence to deal a bit more damage here.
A bit? 6? That's not a bit. It's quite a lot. There we have the handshake. Very quick win for Tommaso Badiali. I think he won both games on the play. On the draw, it's a lot harder, because Blood Moon gets worse when your opponent has already been able to fetch a basic land. Magus of the Moon gets worse if you're already facing a basic land. But if you're on the play, this deck can be very, very powerful.
So, thinking about this, Moraine, we had a very quick red deck on one side, a very quick red deck on the other side, and then stuck in the middle, we have the one deck that didn't even get to finish its match. If you are playing in a team competition and you are essentially Fabrizio Campanino playing the slowest of the 3 decks on your team. Are you excited about the potential to have that moment where you've got your teammates watching you, hoping that you desperately win? Or are you more just like, I might not even need to finish my matches. I might be able to just kind of casually do my thing and watch by as my teammates are winning it for me?
Yeah, I think you're obviously happy that sometimes you don't have to finish your match, but you also have a fear of like still be playing and both of your teammates have already lost, because they are like this.
And if they're both lost, you probably shouldn't
if they
play,
both like the mono red prison deck, it's a gamble. This deck can go very wrong. There's matchup which it probably just cannot win.
I mean, against Burn, where they, they don't care about any of these Megases or so on. I guess that they care about Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, Chalice of the Void, but there's still it's a very big gamble, and it's also something interesting in team tournaments like these. How much do you want to gamble with your deck choice? Is it something you want to do more because you've got the backup of your 2 teammates, or is it something you want to do less because you don't want to disappoint your opponents?
It's
your teammates.
Your opponents will be fine with the gamble. Your teammates maybe not quite so much. It's a great question. It's not one that there's a clear answer to. I'm sure that everyone has been giving it a little bit of thought as they prepare for this event. We will have more Magic for you from the Pro Show and this round soon enough. Do not go anywhere. We'll be back right after these messages. Hello and welcome back to the Pro Show here at Grand Prix Madrid. I'm Tim Willoughby, joined by Moraine Libet. It's round 4. We're getting close to the halfway point on our day 1. No one's making day 2 yet, but equally not too many people knocked out just yet. We're going to get a chance to see a little bit more magic soon. Let's have a look at the matchup that we have in this team matchup for our Time Walk match. So we have on one side of things in Standard, it's Blue-Black Midrange versus Mono-Red. Then in Modern, we've got Scapeshift versus Jund. And then in Legacy, Grixis Pyromancer versus Threshold. So it looks like in this matchup between Thierry Rambert, Gregory Cassini, Elie Pichon against Lindsay Conway, Alex Riley and Daniel Wren, we've got some relatively classic lists being brought along in each format.
Yeah, the only deck which kind of surprises me is Elie Pichon's Grixis Pyromancer deck. He does not play the Delver, Grixis Delver. He plays 4 Young Pyromancer and 4 5/5 Zombie Fish in his deck. He does combine which I do like, the Young Pyromancers, he does combine with 4 Cabal Therapy, which I think is a very good combo to have in your aggro deck.
Yeah, we will get a chance to hopefully see a little bit of that one, but we're going to be kicking things off in our Time Walk match with Standard. So Thierry Rambert on the left of our screen up against Lindsay Conway. Conway on almost mono-red. You'll notice Dragon Skull Summit though, that because Scrap Heap Scrounger now in the mix. Now that the red decks are not running Ramanap Ruins, they're able to splash a second colour without too much bother. Black being the choice here for principally just that Scrap Heap Scrounger. Being able to get it back and have a persistent threat, though, is fairly potent. Glimpsy Siphoner on the other side of things, though, for Rambert from his blue-black deck.
Yeah, and I like Scrounger a lot. Sure, there's a lot of Vraska's Contempt running around, but if your opponent is killing the Scroungers with Vraska's Contempt, it means he does not have Vraska's Contempt for your Hazards. That's a pretty, like, your best card becomes better because you're running something like the Scrounger.
And given that Thierry Rambert tapped out for the Glint Sleeve Siphoner, it now means that an exerted Uncrop Crasher is going to make this a hit for 6 coming through from Lindsay Conway.
Yeah, he's attacking for 6, and he's putting that one upside down just to make sure he doesn't untap it next turn. He's actually going to tap it in his upkeep, I'm guessing.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Rotating everything 90 degrees clockwise, some of which then finish up tapped, some of which less so.
And this is a good draw from Lindsay Conway. Putting a lot of pressure on Cherry. Cherry doesn't have Fatal Push, otherwise I think he would have killed the Scrounger. And now also the Earthshaker Kenra get in for 5 once again. Cherry already at 9 and he still hasn't played a single spell that actually did something. The Siphoner is just lying around. Didn't do anything just yet.
And Uncrop Crasher, of course, threatening to do still more damage as it will untap and be able to exert once again. This has been a very awkward combination of draws between Thierry Rambert and Lindsay Conway. Rambert just not really able to get too much going thus far, and this is what the red deck can do. It can punish spotty draws. This has been true of essentially every red deck since the days of Ironclaw Orcs. You play an efficient threat on each and every turn, attack in, and then if your opponent has any kind of a stumble, suddenly you find yourself writing your name in the win column.
Yeah, and I'm a bit surprised by Cherry's draw. I mean, he's still on Blue-Black Midrange. There is 4 Gifted Eaterborn, there's 4 Champion of Wit, so there are quite some cards which you can play before turn 4, but his draw was just fairly slow. I see 2 Gonti, I see Scarab God. Yeah, he just didn't have the best of draws. Now he's hoping that his Vraska's Contempt will keep him alive one more turn, but I'm not sure that will be the case because there is a Lightning Strike waiting in Lindsay's hands.
It's as if Lindsay is desperate to show us Modern and Legacy here at this Team GP by just playing a very aggressive deck with a very aggressive draw, and Thierry Rambert cooperating. It turns out that both of these two quite happy to set up a situation where we're going to get a chance to see potentially a little bit more Modern and indeed Legacy. Here's the Vraska's Contempt. So that does deal with Uncrop Crasher.
So that one, he goes up to 11. If I were Lindsay, I would probably... Has he played a land yet this turn? No, he has not. So I would just attack with everything. Cherry has to block, otherwise he would go down to 3 and die to Lightning Strike. So he blocks. If he blocks the Scrounger, you bring it. Oh, you cannot bring it back because the exile from Vraska's Condemned. So actually, if that is the case, I would kill the Glintsleeve Siphoner and attack for 8, putting his opponent at 3. Problem is that the block on the Scrounger is actually quite good because there's no other creature in play. So now Jerry goes to 6. I think he has a way out now.
It's not a great way out. It's not a clean path. Interesting there that with the option, we didn't see Hazoret coming down from Lindsay Conway.
He doesn't have. I don't think he's got Azure. He's got Lightning Strike.
Maybe I
Mount.
missaw what was in hand there.
Now the Scarab God. So yeah, he's still short 1 damage because if he would have killed the creature last turn, he would have had lethal now. Because his opponent would have been at 3 and you had 3 attackers. A Braid, does that do it? No. He would. Cherry would still be at 1. He can point both removal spells at Scarab God, put his opponent at 1. Or he could just, I think just attacking is better and then abrading the Scarab God. Yeah, I like this play. And then now abrade the Scarab God to kill it. His opponent will be at 4. He's not gonna abrade? I'd be surprised if...
I can't think how many better targets you're going to find.
No, because you don't want to keep the... If he leaves the Scarab God alive, he will be able to use 4 mana Cherry to reanimate the Glintsleeve Siphoner. Yeah. There we have a Braid. Goes to the graveyard. Scarab God will trigger end of turn. Cherry at 4 with a Lightning Strike and facing a Kenra and end of turn Scrounger. So now all is looking good again for Lindsay.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where recasting the Scarab God here doesn't do enough. It's sad to say when that's true, but in this case, yeah, you see a scratch of the head there from Thierry.
He might actually need... Yeah, he might need to hit a 1 mana Magma Spray. Does the red deck have Magma Spray? Yeah, 2 Magma Spray, 2 Shock. Which is he look... oh, he's actually got the Firebrand. That's also a good hit. So
yeah.
Cherry's still not dead here.
Yeah, Gonti, Lord of Luxury, finding a 1 mana spell to cast.
The Scrounger is still problematic though, because it will still be coming back. Imagine Cherry attacking with both the Kenra and the Scrounger. Then Cherry has to block both or he dies to Lightning Strike. Or he could actually block with the Firebrand and kill the Kenra and keep his Gonti in play.
I mean, awkwardly, that Kenra dying is another kind of problem because at this point there's enough land in play for Lindsay Conway that Eternalize is something to consider here, and once Earthshaker Kenra comes back as a 4/4, it makes almost every creature unable to block.
Lindsay thinking about Lightning Strike here. Let's see, if he Lightning Strikes the Gonti, then reanimates his Scrounger. Cherry has no choice but to block the Scrounger and kill the Kenra, which is actually fine for Lindsay, because he can then next turn get back his Kenra. Yeah, I think I agree with this play.
Bit of a frustrating situation for Lindsay Conway here, having to throw away a burn spell in some respects at a point where there's so little life for Thierry Rambo to work with.
So now Cherry's at 4 and the Earthshaker Kenra is coming back, although the Earthshaker Kenra cannot make it that Scarab God cannot block. So Scarab God should be able to block next turn. And then it blocks the Kenra and Cherry goes down to 1. So this game's very close. Despite Lindsay having such a powerful draw in the beginning, this game is still pretty close.
So Lindsay Conway just carefully making sure that nothing gets missed here. In some respects, team competition, that's the moment where you're the most concerned with trying to make sure that you play perfectly, because if you mess up, you're not just messing up for yourself. It's your whole team that you need to think about. Earthshaker Kenra coming on back.
So now Cherry has the choice of playing the God or playing Gonti. The God, both of them keep him alive, but the Gonti does mean he gets to spin the wheel once again, for example, for a Magma Spray. Magma Spray, pretty
there
good
it
here.
is.
Yeah. Magma Spray, get rid of the Scrounger, block the Kenra with the Gonti and kill it with Death Touch. So he will be At 4, he stabilized at 4. This is incredible.
And this is what these blue-black decks are trying to achieve. They know that if they can get to the late game, they're fine. It's just a matter of navigating these earlier turns. And each of these players with 6 lands in play, we're fast approaching the zone, which is all about blue-black, and much less so about the red deck.
But you do know what's going to happen, right? When you're playing against mono red, you've stabilized at 4. They draw Hazard. That's what's going to happen. He's actually thinking about playing the charter course to hopefully draw a land, but if he doesn't draw a land, he would die. Oh, this is game.
Yeah, Pianola, very potent here.
Making sure that the Gonti cannot block by sacrificing the top tier, and then the Kenra is lethal. That was a good draw from Lindsay.
So Conway just thinking through what could potentially be on the other side of things. Here's Pia.
Also even able to sacrifice the Scrounger and bring it back because there's a fanatical Firebrand. Yeah.
So with the trigger on the stack to create a Thopter token, Thierry Ramboa may have some actions here.
Yeah, he's thinking about Magma spraying the Pia in response. But if Lindsay is smart, he will respond by sacrificing the Scrounger to make sure the Gonti cannot block. Yeah, he's not
Looks
doing
like
it.
Ramboa smelled that one out, but I'm not sure that there's actually any lines here that are going to be able to get him out of the situation he's found himself in. Just went so low on life so early against the red deck that Lindsay Conway just had to find a way of getting those last few points through.
What gets him out of it is that Lindsay thinks Cherry has Fatal Push and doesn't go for it, but it seems like he's not biting it. Yeah, there we have it.
And there was the Magma Ray shown under there, so Lindsay Conway gets a chance to realize quite how fortunate those last few turns were. It could have gone a lot worse. And we're going to get a chance to see a bit of modern now. Alex Riley already a game up against Gregory Cassini as we go into our game 2 here. So Alex Riley is on, let's have a little look here, a fairly classic Jund list. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, we have
Blue, red, green, scapeshift with 4 Jace the Mind Sculptor. So basically a deck that either tries to turn 3 Jace the Mind Sculptor or play a longer game with lightning bolts with roast and cryptic commands and then kill your opponent with scapeshift. The good thing about both of these 4 mana cards, Jace and scapeshift, is that they both want like earlier more lands in play. Like Jace you want to play on turn 3 and scapeshift you want more lands just because you need 7 to kill your opponent. So it's actually quite a good combination of cards to build your deck around.
Well, if we were looking for the answer on what's better, Jace or Bloodbraid Elf, this is potentially where we get a chance to see the rubber hit the road, because 4 Bloodbraid Elf in one of these lists, a whole bunch of Jace in the other.
4 Jace in the other. Yeah, I've heard rumors, like when Jace was released up on Modern, everyone was like, yeah, Jace is too good. Bloodbraid's probably fine, but Jace too good. But I think right now it's more Bloodbraid's too good and Jace might not be good enough. Well, I don't think Bloodbraid's too good, but Bloodbraid certainly has had a bigger impact so far than Jace had.
We'll get a chance to see exactly how this plays out soon enough. That search for tomorrow just been suspended, and Collective Brutality here from Alex Riley meets a remand from Cassini. Does not want to reveal anything just yet.
Yeah, imagine now Jace coming in play.
We may not have to imagine it. Cassini gets to search through, find an appropriate basic land.
It always surprises me that you can run enough mountains in your 3-color deck to be able to support Cryptic Command and Scapeshift together with Valakut.
I mean, this was kind of the classic build of Scapeshift. Back when Scapeshift was first being put together, was this 3-color list. It's only really kind of turned into 2-color more recently, but now that there's a great reason to be blue again, we are seeing there's the Jace drawn off the top. And is there the 4th land that means that Gregory Cassini is going to be able to play a turn 3 most powerful Planeswalker of them all? He's double checking exactly how Collective Brutality works. Wants to figure out whether or not that one's going to be able to snipe Jace. Flooded Grove.
I would like to see a Fate Seal here, just to get Jace out of lightning bolt range. No, he's going for a brainstorm. If he loses his Jace this turn to a lightning bolt, he will certainly regret not using the fate seal. But if his opponent doesn't have lightning bolt, he'll be happy about it. Although next turn he kind of has to fate seal once again to get his Jace out of Bloodbraid Elf range. So I think I would have preferred the fate seal here.
All right, big turn here for Alex Riley. Kicks things off with the Scavenging Ooze, but no third land. That a big issue for Alex Riley here. He's watching Gregory Cassini get to put extra lands in play with Search for Tomorrow. Meanwhile, 2 lands is not what these specific Jund decks are looking to work with. We saw some Jund lists prior to Bloodbraid Elf returning kind of trimming back on 4-drops a little bit, maybe only running a couple of 4-drops in total, maybe instead choosing to leverage the power of Dark Confidant. But now that Bloodbraid Elf is in the mix, they are tending to go towards more expensive spells, and this could be a big problem.
Yeah, obviously missing your third land drop on your opponent, untaps with a Jace in play is very problematic. I mean, now Jace is at 5, so even Lightning Bolt doesn't handle it. He might be able, if he's running that, 2 Maelstrom Pulse might be his only way out here, facing that very powerful Planeswalker.
Is there a sadder feeling when you already have mana issues than your opponent fate sealing you and just leaving that card on the top of your deck?
Yeah, it's definitely not a very good sign for Alex.
I like this Tyler's Tracker out of the sideboard for Gregory Cassini here. Obviously, it also working quite nicely with a lot of what he's got going on in terms of getting lots of lands in play. Plays it, immediately plays another land, gets that clue token, and potentially threatens to get even more going here. Setchari's Cantor coming along. That another cheeky way that this Temur deck can get more lands in play. As and when he has enough cards in the graveyard, it'll transform and, of course, represent a land in and of itself.
Now Collective Brutality. I think that was actually a misplay by Gregory. He knew about the Collective Brutality. He could have not played the Search for Ascanta, sacrifice his clue in response to the Collective Brutality, and now he's actually Jace will be down to 3 again. I think this might be the window if he also has a land to get back in it. He's holding Bloodbraid Elf. Does he have the land? He does not have the land. That's unfortunate.
So yeah, Gregory Cassini here, you know, he's still got Jace in play and an opponent who he's fate sealing and only 2 lands in play. So definitely not a bad position to be in, but a game down, he needs to be a little bit careful here. Does not want to let the opposing team pick up its first match win. Continues to tick up Jace where he can.
So he could play Engineered Explosives for 2 here and sacrifice it to kill the Scavenging Ooze, but that does mean he cannot sacrifice the clue this turn. But I don't think he wants to sacrifice the clue this turn just yet. Although
also costs him his Search for Ascanta.
I'm not 100% sure because he's only 1 card. Imagine Alex drawing the 3rd land, playing Liliana, and he's gonna wait with the Engineered Explosives. Yeah. So if Alex draws a 3rd land here, the first thing he should do is attack the Jace with the Scavenging Ooze. Gregory is not gonna bite the dust. He wants to keep up 2 mana in case Liliana of the Veil comes into play. Then he wants to respond by drawing a card, so he doesn't have to discard his scapeshift. But again, no 3rd land for Alex.
Well, 2 Scavenging Ooze. Suddenly the temptation to use those Engineered Explosives only increases. Courser of Trufix to pick up that one. Definitely a nice addition. Wormcoil Engine as well. My, we have some power in Gregory Cassini's deck after sideboarding. And he continues to fate seal, puts something on the bottom. I think it's pretty safe to assume that that's a land.
I like how Gregory diversifies his deck after sideboard. Tireless Tracker, Wormcoil Engine, he still has the Jace, he still has the Scapeshift, so he's got a lot of plans. And Jund is fine at beating one particular strategy, but if you're like fighting on all cylinders, on all angles, then it's hard to beat the deck.
Gregory Cassini successfully able to square things up with Alex Riley here. And we're going to get a chance to jump across and see still more magic from our Time Walk. The beauty of Time Walk is that these jumping around, very straightforward. And in this case, it looks like we have just jumped forward a touch, cut out a little bit of the sideboarding that's gone on thus far. And there we go. Ooh. Here we go. We get a chance to see some legacy now. So now we have Elie Pichon against Daniel Ren. Ren on Nimble Mongoose version of the Delver list, sometimes referred to as Canadian Threshold. Tarmogoyf coming along on turn 2. Currently just a land and a sorcery in the graveyard, but I think we can expect more to end up in there soon enough. Obviously that Nimble Mongoose, it's going to need a few more cards in the graveyard before it hits full potency. Right now a 1-1 with Shroud, but at some point a 3-3 thanks to Threshold.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure. Like Legacy a couple of years ago, probably maybe like 10 years ago, was all about Nimble Mongoose. It was all about Rug, Threshold. This deck has lost a lot of its popularity. Is it because of cards like Deathright Shaman? Because it's harder to reach Threshold? Is it because people have Gurmak Angler, which blocks the Nimble Mongoose? It's hard to tell. I don't exactly know the reason why this deck has lost a lot of its power. The deck usually is combined with cards like Stifle, Daze, Wasteland, so that you can make sure your opponent is a little bit land light and you are just beating him down with a 3/3 hexproof creature.
Oh, Shroud creature indeed.
Shroud.
So here is another Preordain coming from Elie Pichon. They go to the bottom.
And this board is already looking quite problematic for Elie Pichon. He kind of needs to find a very fast Gurmak Angler or Young Pyromancer. And now also True Name Nemesis.
True Name Nemesis, a big pickup for Daniel Ren here. Originally printed in Commander, you get to name an opponent and get protection from that opponent, which essentially means protection from every single thing that Elie Pichon has going on. An incredibly powerful ability and one that immediately found True Name Nemesis a home in many Legacy decks.
The question is, do you run out True Name Nemesis against an opponent which potentially has Daze? But then again, I think I would, because you're not holding the 4th land, so it's not even sure you're going to draw the 4th land next turn. Imagine if you don't, then you just waited a turn to do absolutely nothing. So I think running out the True Name Nemesis, even if Elie has the Daze, he has to return an island, and he's still facing 2 creatures. I think I would have loved to see a True Name Nemesis here. Of course, for us, it's easier to see. I saw Elie doesn't have the Daze, but I think the Daze wouldn't have been that problematic, because it sets Elie Pichon again down 1 land, still on 1 land when you're beating down. I think I preferred the True Name Nemesis.
It would also mean that there was an instant and a creature in the graveyard, so you would be getting a bit of extra damage through with Tarmogoyf. As things stand, Elie Pichon getting a little bit of a reprieve there, at least on that last turn.
The problem also with Daniel is that his hand is not that good. Like Spell Snare, sure, might be able to counter a Young Pyromancer, but that's about it. But the Brainstorm is very suboptimal because he doesn't have a fetch land to shuffle away useless cards, and that's when Jace shines, when it can also fetch. That's when Brainstorm shines, when you can also fetch away some useless card. He doesn't even have that many cards to shuffle away. Doesn't want to shuffle away the True Name Nemesis. That card is just too good. And now Elie Pichon smartly waiting with his fetch land. Because of Wasteland, he wanted to search for non-basic lands. If he would have done that end of turn, that would have probably prompted Daniel to use that Wasteland and set back Elie Pichon to 2 lands.
So Pichon, he's got a little bit of time here to put something together. If he can get that Young Pyromancer down, then every spell that he has in play in his hand gets just that little bit more potent. But it looks like Gurmak Angler going to be the kickoff here. Let's make Tarmogoyf a little worse, and also let's have a 5/5 zombie fish.
Yeah, now Daniel kind of has to respond with Brainstorm, but what is he hoping to hit here? A Force of Will? I don't think there's a world in where Force of will be enough to keep that zombie fish from the table. So he needs Force of Will plus another. Oh, actually, Dismember? Dismember's not that bad, but it will still be countered by Force of Will, I'm guessing.
Can't quite make out, but it looks like there might be a Pyroblast in hand as well for Elie Pichon, which makes all of this counter magic a little bit trickier to resolve. Pyroblast a pretty safe one to have in the main deck in this format because there are so many blue decks knocking around in Legacy.
Yeah, and that's also the problem with not casting the True Name Nemesis last turn. This way... Oh, this is still the main turn? Oh, wow. Yeah, I would have suspected... Ah, yeah, never mind. It was in response to the zombie fish. Yeah, of course. So now he's gonna sacrifice, get rid of the Badlands, and try to dismember... Oh, I don't like this sequence. This also runs into Daze. Runs into Force of Will, which doesn't really matter, but by wastelanding first, he runs into Daze with his Dismember. I would have much rather played the Dismember first, then if my opponent has Daze, pay it with Wasteland. It does mean that the coast is clear once again for a True Name Nemesis. That's the good news for Daniel.
And this pretty optimal in terms of timing for getting that True Name Nemesis down. Yes, Daze still a factor, but assuming that one's not around...
I think Elie would have dazed the Dismember if he had it. So Daniel can pretty much rule that out. There we have the True Name Nemesis now. And that one is actually a good blocker and only 4 attacks to kill Elie Pichon. So this is not gonna be easy for Elie. He needs to, I guess he needs to go for Young Pyromancer and hope it survives and make a lot of tokens. But I'm not sure how he's supposed to win this game now that the True Name Nemesis is on the table.
A feeling that's not uncommon around True Name Nemesis, it must be said.
I mean, he could kill the Nimble Mongoose with the Engineer Explosives, then get rid of the Tarmogoyf some way, and then hope to draw Diabolic Edict if he's running it. Let's just take a look. If he's got any outs, he's got Fire Eyes, doesn't really do any. Lightning Bolt doesn't do it. Yeah, he doesn't have an answer except for maybe another copy of Engineer Explosives for the True Name Nemesis. Seems like he is in trouble.
3 cards in hand now. Elie Pichon picks up another copy of Force of Will. No blue card to go alongside it.
Yeah, and the second Young Pyromancer are also not very good. Problem is that even the zombie fish cannot really race it, because Daniel can easily take 1 hit and then jump twice, or he could just try to double block here and hope to kill it that way. Although, actually, double block, does it work if then Elie sacrifices the Engineered Explosives? Yeah, I think I like this block with the Nimble Mongoose because of the Engineered Explosives on 1 in play.
Spellslayer found a target.
Finally.
It had been sat languishing in hand for a while, but it did take down the second copy of Young Pyromancer.
Yeah, and Tarmogoyf can attack as well. Yeah, good choice by Daniel. He did draw the Lightning Bolt, so if there's no block, Elie is dead here. I don't think Elie can afford not to block. He has to block, otherwise he's dead next turn to True Name Nemesis without any answers to it in his main deck or sideboard.
6 life now for Elie Pichon. Needs something big here if he's going to get out of this situation he finds himself in.
True Name Nemesis is such a powerful card in these kind of matchups. There's just so few answers to it. And even if you have the answer, like Diabolic Edict is an answer that often comes up, but that one is usually not enough if your opponent is running other creatures. Ponder off the top. I'd probably just still attack first. Oh no, there's not really a reason. Yeah, actually, I like attacking and then Lightning Bolts before doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, these are all things that True Name Nemesis is very difficult to answer. Lightning Bolt absolutely requiring an answer. As it turns out, that's all it took. Daniel Wren able to square things up against Elie Pichon. We can see that Lindsay Conway has picked up the match win against Thierry Ramboa. Gregor Cassini still playing against Alex Riley there. And in terms of our time walk, I believe that we're now hitting a little bit close on time, which is the reason that we're having to jump around just a little bit. We'll see if there's any that we can get you. We're just moving things around a bit, just trying to make sure that we're able to get that file across appropriately so we can see the conclusion of that match. I know that when it comes to assorted Delver lists, and some of these do feel Delver-ish, you're very familiar with them, Moraine. Let's jump back and see a little bit more of our final game, which is actually, we're going to see some of Gregor Cassini and Alex Riley now. So we have Jund versus Scapeshift.
And this time around it is the Jund deck which has more lands in play than the Scapeshift deck. Also has pressure. His opponent already at 11 life with a big Scavenging Ooze. Raging Ravine, is that lethal? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There we have the handshake. That was a very quick one.
Yep, jumping around a little bit, we get a chance to see things closing out. Lindsay Conway, Alex Riley, Daniel Wren, able to take down some relatively big names in terms of French Magic there. Elie Pichon, a very regular player on the GP circuit. Thierry Ramboa also. And it was nice to see a little bit of Jace in play. Didn't get a chance to see any Bloodbraid Elves, but there's still plenty of time for that in terms of Modern in our feature match area here from Grand Prix Madrid. And of course, we did also get a chance to see a little bit of Legacy action. True Name Nemesis, so powerful. A lot of positioning to get to the point where True Name Nemesis could in play, but when it was there, able to clean things up relatively cleanly. Do not go anywhere. We'll have more Magic for you soon enough. As we have, we're heading to our ad break now, but we'll be more Magic from Grand Prix Madrid here from Riley and Raf after these messages.